So back to Alex Brown and Robert Garrett, we were always really focused on doing the right thing, putting the client first. That was one of our mottos. So when we set up Questmark, I studied venture capital funds with the Cambridge Associates people, probably looked at 40 funds, and we tried to create what we thought was the fairest fund to the investors, both in terms of economics and governance. And when we started with a 1.5% fee. We had an 8% preferred return that the investors would have to get before we got our capital back and earned our carried interest. And we managed to keep our organizational expenses low. We managed to keep our accounting and auditing expenses low because all of these things came out of the investor's pocket. So the investor was clearly put in a preferred position. The second criteria was to try to generate so much deal flow that we could be selective. I call it waiting, a baseball expression, waiting for that fat pitch. And I think we were successful in building up all of these deal flow relationships so that we could be selective. And we probably invested in 1 or 2% of the companies that qualified as late stage companies. Getting to the investment criteria, what we sought to do was invest in companies that had commercial customers and revenues where the technology was proven, and it was proven by customers who had bought their products. And customer calls were very important to us as part of that due diligence process. The other thing we tried to do was to find companies that had created a product or a technology that didn't exist elsewhere. We were not going to try to find the company coming up to be the next Microsoft. So Invisalign was a good example of that. These two kids at Stanford created the invisible braces. There was nothing else like that in the market. There's nothing like it today. That was in 1999, and that's created a winner. When we invested in SpeechWorks, which was speech recognition, there was one other company called Nuance that was in that business on the West Coast. SpeechWorks was on the East Coast, and I think we made 5.9 times our money because we were in a company like that. And then we invested in a company called eHealth Insurance based in California, and eHealth Insurance dominated health insurance on the internet for consumers. And that company still exists. It's a public company today, and we made about 5 times our money. So that, we don't always get it right. We've had some losers, but we try to get it right by finding a company that has a product or a technology that becomes dear either to the IPO markets or to a buyer because nobody else has that. So in terms of deal sourcing, originally we were fortunate that some of the really good early stage venture capital firms liked us and would come to us with companies when they needed late stage financing. And Kleiner Perkins was important in those days, Domain Associates in the healthcare space, Lightspeed Partners, but all the ones that were recognizable. We had a great relationship that Tim Krongard developed with Intel Capital, which is really the largest venture capital investor in the world. And they had a special relationship with 12 or 15 venture capitalists. We're one of them, and they've produced some great wins for our portfolio, bringing us into transactions. Fund 2 was launched in 2003. It was a little larger than Fund 1, $233 million, and people had recognized the success in Fund 1. We went on to invest that also in 17 companies. That's just coincidental. That fund did not do as well as Fund 1. It was a tough market environment. It will be probably a break-even fund, maybe slightly positive. We have one remaining company in that fund. It was a Baltimore company at the time we invested called Vapotherm, and they will probably go public or be sold in the next 12 to 18 months, and that will determine the end of that fund and the returns.